There hasn't been a normal day in Canada in the past 8 years at the very least. And just when you think maybe today or maybe tomorrow is going to be a normal day or a normal news cycle day, it isn't. There's just crazy stuff happening all the time. Like, for example, Justin Trudeau is getting ready to go and sabotage the G20 summit. We're going to take a look at that very soon, where he wants the main focus for the G20 to be Russia. You're not allowed to come here. Ukraine should now be invited to G20, even though they're not a part of it. So that's not going to have any impact whatsoever, he says sarcastically, with any global relations. Also, the Bank of Canada updated their rates today or made an announcement. So there's good and bad news to that as well. There's also the court case for Tamara Lich, however you would like to pronounce it. I'm not exactly sure, where she was somewhat the face of the Freedom Convoy back in Ottawa in February 2022, where she's undergoing a lot of charges and allegations and basically fighting for her life. So there is a lot of things to cover in today's video, a lot of other stories that I actually haven't mentioned in this intro. So let's just get on with it. Welcome back to another video, everybody. I'd like to encourage you to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps grow the channel. And if you would like to have a matching hat or matching, these come in shirts as well. I'm not wearing mine right now. You can find the link for that down in the description below. You've got hats, you've got shirts. Winter is coming. You have hoodies. My favorite is the Canadian Freedom hoodie. I have that one in maroon. I've said this before and I will continue to say it. My wife keeps stealing my hoodie. And now that it's sweater weather here in British Columbia, wife, please stop taking my hoodie. I'm a little cold. All right, so let's take a look at the Bank of Canada update. You have Ron Butler here on Twitter, who's a pretty big mortgage person and knows about finances, saying no change at the Bank of Canada. Tiff Macklin stands still. That soft sound you hear is millions of mortgages and HELOC borrowers across Canada finally exhaling. People have been holding their breath, thinking that we would go up again another 25 points. They had been holding their collective breaths in fear of another Bank of Canada rate increase because it's getting serious out there. For variable rate mortgage borrowers who have not locked into a fixed rate in the last year, the white knuckle experience of riding it out on variable comes with constant anxiety over Bank of Canada rate increases. So today is a good day. But what happens now? Is TIF done? Is the rate hiking cycle finally over? No decision on that at all, because inflation will likely accelerate. It is showing signs already as the price of oil soars, which will further increase food prices. If inflation flips over 4% in future CPI reports, pressure grows. The Bank of Canada cannot live with a series of inflation increases without acting. That's why the odds of rate increase by the end of this year are 80% likely. Not looking good, folks. October 25th and December 6th loom large. Despite a clearly slowing Canadian economy, the chances of further rate increases are strong. The Canadian dollar has fallen versus USD at the US Fed, as the US Fed is very likely to raise yet again. TIF may have no choice but to raise on that basis alone. One or two further 25 BPS increases will be devastating for the Canadian mortgage market. So this is not good, because if the United States increases their rates, it basically devalues, from my understanding, our Canadian dollar, which is going to have massive drawbacks. It's going to hurt a lot of people financially. So as much as it sucks, rates, I think, do need to go, from my understanding of this, rates do need to go higher. It's really painful that they're doing it this slow. Should they just skyrocket it? I don't know. I don't have that answer, but unfortunately, it seems like a lot of professionals are saying that rates do need to go higher. Let's take a look at CTV's kind of professional breakdown of what's happening.
Let's bring in DT Cochrane. He's an economist, policy researcher, following this closely. What do you make of the decision?
This is good news for Canadians. I have been saying for a long time that the bank needs to hold its rate, and was disappointed when it continued to hike, because it hasn't really considered who is being impacted by these rate hikes. So the hold is good news, and I think they will continue to hold, if not cut, in the next rounds.
Yeah, what are the factors that you think led them to keeping it steady at 5%?
I think the fact that inflation has come down significantly, they did point to some persistence of higher than they would like inflation. But what we have to consider is that an important component of that higher than they would like inflation has been their own interest rate hikes, which has increased mortgage payments and has been the main component of higher inflation in recent months. They have also seen some weakening in excess demand. So this has informed their decision to hold steady.
What do you think the number one impact is going to be for Canadians?
I think it will be, as you said, breathing a sigh of relief. We have been feeling the pinch from these higher interest rates in all sorts of ways. People who've had to renew their mortgages have done so with a great amount of concern for how much more they're going to end up paying on their mortgages, which cuts into all of the other kind of spending that they can participate in. And this is the stuff that the government wants us to be consuming in order to help the economy recover. And the bank is really taking us in the wrong direction.
Tell me about the possibility of rate cuts. What do you think?
It will depend on what the bank is seeing and whether they're listening to a broader set of experts. The bank is really locked into a certain model of how the economy works. And frankly, the post-pandemic era has shown that that model isn't accurate if it ever was. So I would like the bank to demonstrate that it's listening to more voices saying, hey, this is harming certain groups of people more than others, and that needs to be taken into consideration.
The fact that, we're watching what goes on in the U.S. as well, how much of an impact does that have on us here? Because there, too, you're seeing, the Federal Reserve cautiously looking at what they want to do now in that model.
That it's obviously huge. Canada really tends to follow along with what the U.S. is doing, and so U.S. moves in this area will inform what the Bank of Canada does. That said, they do also like to demonstrate that they're independent. They're not just led around by the nose by what the U.S. Federal Reserve does.
Unfortunately, in many ways, we are tied to the hip with the United States of America, and if they increase their rates, Canada is going to be in a lot of trouble, and we will also be increasing our rates. So unfortunately, the fate of Canada, as per always, is pretty much in the hands of America, is pretty much how I'm understanding and interpreting this. But I'd love to know if you guys have any comments or questions or opposing views about that. Please let me know down in the comments. Speaking of things that could go wrong, let's take a look at what Jagmeet Singh has to say. Here on Twitter, you have the NDP leader says it's a difficult time for Canadians because government and Bank of Canada ruined the economy and destroyed the dollar. Well, I'm glad that he said government first, because that seems to be the reality, is that the government, the Liberal government, did that. But does Jagmeet Singh not realize that we Canadians know that they are in a coalition? So if the government, who's in a coalition with himself, by his own admission, are ruining the economy, then wouldn't he, as a byproduct, be a part of that, be part of the problem that has ruined the economy? Maybe he thinks Canadians are stupid. I certainly don't think that Canadians are stupid, which is why we have, 310,000 subscribers on this channel, is because people are waking up to the truth. Hey, wait a second, that seems a little off. I think that he's lying to me here, and he's trying to cover his own ass. Even though they supported reckless spending, once again, they want to keep us safe. As a Canadian, can you afford for government to keep you safe?
Friends, this is a truly difficult time for many in our country. But our team of New Democrats are here to fight and to deliver results, to put money back in your pocket, to stand up against division and hatred, and to protect you and your family from the climate crisis. Hear, hear. This is what we will do every day in Ottawa. Justin Trudeau will delay and disappoint. Pierre Poilievre will blame and complain. But my job, our job, is to do both for you. Thank you. Let's get to work. Merci, allons-y. Allons-y.
He really thinks that Pierre Poilievre, all he does is blame and complain, yet he thinks that he's free of those accusations. Jagmeet Singh is the definition of a rat. He is playing the field, looking for who's most likely to win and who can benefit him the most at the expense of us taxpayers here in Canada. And it's just incredible how hypocritical, how much gaslighting these politicians are doing, and none of them are taking any accountability. And since we're on the topic of horrible, horrible scum human beings, well, of course, we have to bring in the witch of the Wicked West, Chrystia Freeland. Let's see what she has to say at this moment, current live press conference on CPAC, but I did timestamp something that was pretty interesting. So let's take a look.
Nearly 950,000 more Canadians are employed today than were before the pandemic. And that includes a record 85.7% labor force participation rate in July.
So Chrystia Freeland is claiming that as of right now, there are almost 1 million more workers than in 2019, pre-pandemic. I don't know about you, but I have never seen more hiring. We're looking for employee signs in the windows, on bulletin boards, on online threads. I don't know one single, medium to small company here in Canada that has all of their employees and doesn't need to hire anymore. You go to any mechanic shop, any fast food restaurant, any service, you call lawyers, you call doctors. I mean, it takes forever to get an appointment for anything these days because of what? Shortages of employees. But somehow Chrystia Freeland is trying to say that we have 1 million more people working. We also have 1 million or 2 million more people living here, you old hag. How can she even say these words and it not make her face cringe and implode from the black hole of constant lies that she's doing? Does she think we're stupid? Since 2019, we've gone up in at least 2 million people population. So naturally, there are more people working, but that means that there are also more jobs that need to be filled, and it's not adding up. She is just the worst human being I've ever seen.
July for Canadian women in their prime working years, supported by our early learning and childcare system. This record level of 85.7% compares to just 77.5% in the US. At a time when labor shortages are constraining industrialized economies around the world, and at a time when labor shortages are also contributing to inflation around the world, affordable early learning and childcare is adding to Canada's labor force, helping our economy to grow, and making life more affordable for families here in the GTA. As we continue to deliver our Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare, it is so important to support places like this one so we can learn about what more we can do to support our wonderful educators and parents and families like those here in Etobicoke in Jamie's riding. So to everyone here at the YWCA, I want to say thank you all very, very much. Before I close, as Finance Minister, I'd like to comment briefly on the Bank of Canada's announcement this morning. The Bank of Canada's decision to maintain its overnight interest rate is welcome relief for Canadians. As Finance Minister, I fully respect the independence of the Bank of Canada as it delivers on its mandate to return inflation to target, which will support a return to the steady growth and stable prices, which were the hallmarks of the pre-COVID Canadian economy. The bank has a hard job to do, and our government respects the bank's independent role. We also understand that an independent central bank is a cornerstone of Canada's broader institutional stability and economic and fiscal policy credibility. The strength of our governing institutions underpins Canada AAA rating and helps to make Canada such an attractive destination for foreign investment. As the bank continues its important work, my number one priority is to use all the tools at my disposal and to work with partners at other levels of government across Canada to ensure that interest rates can come down as soon as possible. Thank you very much. I'm ready to answer your questions.
So not for 1 second should anyone believe this woman here on the screen, even though she's smiling. Okay. She looked in the cameras and told the world, told Canada, we are purposely doing this. We are purposely inflating the economy. We are purposely making interest rates skyrocket because it's the only way to fix things. Now, unfortunately, that interview never got the millions of views that Justin Trudeau getting heckled does, or that Pierre Poilievre destroying Justin Trudeau in the House of Commons does. It almost got swept under the rug. Now, why is that? I don't know. Algorithmic. People just weren't that interested in that, but it is there. And I have talked about it in previous videos. I unfortunately don't have it pulled up right now, but it is something that you can look into on your own time should you wish. This woman has lied to Canadians to their faces. She's also said the exact truth to Canadians to their faces through these types of interviews. And I don't know what to believe, but when Freeland says interest rates are coming down, which she has said in 2020 or 2022 when they started going up, and she's been saying them since then, I do not believe her, because in 2020 and in 2021, Freeland said that interest rates will be low for a very, very long time. So go out and purchase a bunch of things and borrow a lot of money. Well, the sad news is that a lot of people who did that are stuck now with a 5-year expiration date coming within, 18 to 24 months. And they're going to have to pay an exorbitant amount of money that most Canadians aren't prepared for. This is the sad reality of borrowing money with a volatile economy. And she is the reason to blame for a lot of this, because as she likes to say, budgets will balance themselves. So I do not believe her for any moment when she makes the claim that interest rates will be coming down sometime soon. It's not viable. It's not going to happen. And people are being screwed over left, right, and center because of it. And speaking of people being screwed over left, right, and center, we're going to take a look at this story, and then I think we're going to wrap things up. This is very weird, but this has to do with the rental policies here in Canada that I think it's after 2018. If your house was established after 2018, you're exempt from pretty much any rental laws, which is why the landlord for these two women here, these two sisters, the rent was raised by $7,000 a month.
Rents in the GTA are at an all-time high, and while landlords can only raise the rent 2.5% this year, that's not the case in newer buildings.
Buildings built after November of 2018 are exempt from rent controls, meaning landlords can raise the rent by any amount they want. Here's Pat Foran and a consumer alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. Two sisters live in a Toronto building and were shocked to be told their rent is going up $7,000 a month. They feel the landlord wants them to move out, and under the rules, it's perfectly legal to do it.
Our landlord increased our rent by $7,000 per month.
Sisters Yumna and Khadija Farouk have lived in a Midtown Toronto building for the past 3 years. Their rent was $2,500 per month. The landlord raised the rent to $3,500 a month, and when they had concerns and wanted to change their lease, the landlord raised the rent again to $9,500 per month.
We know our building is not rent controlled, so this was always something we were worried about, that if something were to happen, that this could be an issue. And of course, we can't pay $9,500 per month. There's no way he can really be serious about giving us this notice. We were just very shocked.
The rent increase guideline for this year and next year is 2.5%, but the guideline does not apply to buildings built after November 15th, 2018. Landlords with newer buildings can raise the rent by as much as they want.
This is egregious, horrible, and unfortunately, thanks to the current government, legal.
Tenant advocate Jordy Dent says without rent controls, rents in some buildings are being hiked to astronomical levels.
The simplest solution is to bring back rent control on all units.
At Queen's Park, both the NDP and Liberal parties are calling on the Ontario government to bring back rent controls.
To make rent more affordable and really help renters get by, Ontario needs to bring in strong rent control again. We had strong rent control in the 90s, and it is time to return it.
We do have to have some form of rent control on all rental properties.
The Farouk sisters now have to move out and find another place to stay, and they worry they'll also have to pay more for rent.
The rental market is just so crazy right now, and the prices they've gone up, right? And so everything's just a big question mark.
A lot of this is attributed and can be blamed towards our liberal government for allowing this to happen. This is just crazy. Things are getting way out of hand and something needs to be done. And so I'd love to pass the question off to you if you have any questions or, comments, questions, or concerns. How does this make you feel? How does the state of Canada currently make you feel? Are you worried? Are you pissed off? Do you think everything's fine? Well, I got news for you. Everything is not fine because Canada's biggest political prisoner is currently undergoing a trial for being a patriot.
Earlier this year, Justin Trudeau's government arrested a woman called Tamara Lich. Her crime was organizing a protest against vaccine mandates, not hurting anybody, speaking her views. Here she was in February.
It's not an illegal protest. It's in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
And so what's your response then if you do get arrested, if you're the next person that police do arrest?
I'd love it if you'd speak louder.
She wants to know what my response would be if I get arrested.
What's the response? Hold the line!
Hold the line.
Hold the line. And people are supporting her at court and outside of the court. Obviously, it's not as global of a thing as the Johnny Depp Amber Heard. That was just a one-off insane court case, defamation through abuse of partners. This is different. This is actually arguably way more important because instead of the Me Too, this is for our rights and our freedoms, our freedom of expression, our freedom to protest here in Canada. And it's so important for Canadians to actually be aware of what's going on. And there's only one monster who stands in the way, and it's this guy right here, Justin Trudeau.
So some of you may know, Canada is in the midst of our worst wildfire season ever. And this kind of terrible happening isn't limited to Canada. It's going on all around the world, including here in the Indo-Pacific, which is one of the regions most exposed to extreme weather events exacerbated by climate change. In 2023 alone, we've seen heavy rains and flooding here in Indonesia, but also in India, in the Republic of Korea, China, and Japan. Tropical storms have hit the Philippines and Taiwan. A cyclone devastated Myanmar. Heat waves have swept over Asia. In April, Laos and Thailand recorded their hottest temperatures ever.
And the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is pay more taxes. You owe the government more money to ensure wildfires don't happen, to ensure natural disasters and natural storms don't happen, to ensure that there's less rain and that the winds are more tolerable. This is where we are in our world. We are being run by leaders who think that the way out of fighting Mother Nature is by taxing us. So I'm going to end today's video on that note. Love to know what you guys think about the situation here in Canada and just the direction that our culture is shifting towards. And as Tamara Lich said in the video, hold the line. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support the channel financially, you can do so by checking out the merch shop linked right up there. Or if you want to do something for free, which is also absolutely acceptable and highly encouraged, you can subscribe right there. If you want to continue watching videos like this, you can do so by clicking or tapping right there to watch the next upcoming video. And if you want to watch a little bit of different content, but also Canadian stuff, you can do so by clicking right up there. That's my second channel, House of Canada, also known as the House of Commons Highlights. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.